Hi YouTube, Tim Unkert from UnkertEducation.com here. In today's video, we are going to do a basic HTML overview. I've got this HTML project open in WebStorm, so I'm just going to create a new file here. And I'm not going to create the HTML file it gives me because it gives me a template here. I'm just going to start with a file and use the .html extension. I'm going to call it index. I'm going to call it index.html here, and I'll hit enter and create that file. Okay, so first off, I want to talk about a little bit of basic HTML boilerplate that we need in this file. So I'm going to create a doc type declaration, which is what we need in every HTML file. So I'm going to do doc type HTML, and then below that, I want to have my opening and closing HTML tags. I'm going to do an opening and closing HTML tag. And that's where the entirety of my content is going to go. Now you see WebStorm is giving me this little bit of yellow here. Typically, let's see if we go over the warning here, it says missing required lang attribute. So you do want to have that nowadays. You want to have language, and I'm going to set mine to English. So now that little warning goes away. Inside of the HTML tags, we want the opening head and closing head tag. That's where our meta information, our title, and that kind of stuff goes. This stuff really doesn't appear on the page, but it's still important for search engine optimization and so forth. You see I'm getting a little warning here. It's missing the required title element. We'll get to that in a moment. And below the head of the document is the body of the document, and that's the stuff that typically appears on the viewport. Okay, so in the head of the document here, and let me just go down here. We're going to create a meta tag, and it's going to be a meta character set equal to what I want to start to type is UTF, and I'm going to select UTF-8 here. So we want that, and that's a self-closing tag. That basically allows you to use special characters in HTML. Below that, we want also a tag with the name of viewport. Okay, so we want our viewport tag. And we want the content of that tag to be width equals device dash width. Let me close up the sidebar here. Initial dash scale equals 1.0. Okay. So we want that. That basically helps with mobile optimization. Another thing I like to include, a lot of people don't talk about it, but is a description tag. So meta name equals description, and that's good for the little excerpt below the search engine results. It helps with search engine optimization. We'll just say this page is about basic HTML. Okay, now this one should be 160 characters or less. I think the studies show it should be around 150 to 160 characters, something like that. Okay, below that, let's have a title, and we'll just call this home, and we'll call it HTML practice, something like that. You probably have your website name here. You might have a dash here too. It depends on the style. A lot of people have different things. Under this, typically you have your link for your style sheet. We're not going to do any CSS. It's going to be ugly old HTML in this tutorial. So, yeah. Okay, let's talk about headings and paragraphs. So we'll go on the body. Now we'll start to see some stuff in the viewport. I'm going to do a preview here in a moment, but let's start with an H1. This is a top level heading. And by the way, as I'm making these, you'll notice that the IDE I'm using, WebStorm, automatically closes my tags for me. If you're using something like VS Code or many of the other top editors, they'll do the same thing. The closing tag has a slash before the tag name. Typically on a page, there's only one H1. And then you have a couple subheadings, which are H2s. So this is a second level heading. Okay. Below that, you might have an H3, which is a subheading of an H2. That's a third level heading. And then below that, you might have an H4. That's a fourth level heading. Below that, you might have an H5. That's a fifth level heading. These are all subheadings of the heading above. And the smallest heading is an H6. That's our 6th level heading and our least important. Now on the top headings, the H1s, H2s, and H3s, it's important to include keywords that relate to your SEO. That helps with search engine optimization. Okay, so that's headings, and we can make a comment in HTML. This isn't going to show up on the page, and I'll show this live preview in a moment. This is a comment. Okay, the following are headings. Now notice everything is kind of grayed out here. So if I close out the comment that way, now the syntax highlighting comes back, the coloration of the things that helps me see mistakes in my code. So you start the comment with the left arrow bracket, exclamation point, 2 hyphens here. Then you do the comment. Then to close it, you have 2 hyphens and a right arrow bracket. You can make this a multi-line comment, like so. Say, this is still part of the comment. Okay, so you could do something like that. Pretty cool. All right, let's live preview this. So I'm going to open up, and I think I need to go to view here, and I want to open in browser, and I just want to use the default browser. So I'm going to do that, and you're going to see it's going to open up. There we go. And I'm going to make this a little bit larger so you can see it. And you see the top level heading is the largest, followed by the second level heading all the way down to the 6th level. Now you don't want to use the size of the heading to determine, you don't want to pick the heading based on the size. You can restyle that in CSS. You want to base it on the structure of the document. Okay. After headings, let's make another comment. I can do that with Control/ to make a comment like that. And I can say, let's talk about paragraphs. So if you just, try something like this is a paragraph, and then go down and do this is another paragraph. Well, let's see what happens in our live preview. So we have this is a paragraph, this is another paragraph. They're all jammed together in the same thing. So you have to wrap these in paragraph tags here, okay? So let's get rid of this stuff. I got that you're reloading the browser on save. So we have to have an opening paragraph tag. Then we can do this is a paragraph. And I could, typically you don't do this, but I could do it in the same line, say this is another paragraph. And since these are block level elements, they will appear on separate lines like so. Okay, typically with our code, we're going to go down to a new line for formatting purposes. But yeah, you want your paragraph tags to have proper paragraphs in HTML. Makes sense, right? All right, let's talk about lists. All right. Okay. All right, so we first have an unordered list. That's a UL tag. So you have an opening and closing UL tag, and then inside of that, you're going to nest list item tags. And we'll make a few of these. Okay. And so that's your unordered list. Now, if we take a look at this, we see that the default styling is bullets. You can change that, of course. Okay, sweet. So let's actually make a comment. This is an unordered list. Okay. Next up, we'll do an ordered list. Okay. And so to do that, we do not an O tag, we do an OL tag. Okay, so opening and closing OL tag, and in there, we can nest list items. So I'll make a few of these, maybe one more. So we got our list items here. Now that by default is numbered. Of course, that can be changed in CSS as well. So unordered list, ordered list. Okay. We also have a definition list, which I never use it, but I'll show it to you. So definition list, so that's a DL tag. So we have a DL tag, and then we have a definition term. So this is our definition term. And then we have a DD tag, which is our definition description. And you can hover over this if you want to look at some documentation. So it says the DL represents a description list, definition list. Some people call them different things. DT is the description term, and then the DD is the description definition. Okay, definition, description, whatever. Okay, let's do a nested list and show you the proper way to do this. So let's do a nested list. Okay, so nested list. Let's start with an unordered list. We could start with an ordered list if we want. Let's do some list items. Let's do a couple of these. And let's say we want to nest a list in this list item. We have to be in the list item. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to go up, tab in, and let's do an unordered list in here. And then we'll do, a nested list item here and duplicate a few of those. Okay. So that's the proper way to do it. You have to have it in between the opening and closing list item tags. Some people have them outside the list item tag. That's not proper HTML. So let's go up and check this out. Here's my nested list here. Pretty sweet. Okay, so that's lists. Let's talk about links. Okay, so next up, links in HTML. Okay, so first one, we can link to a website. We do this anchor tag, and then we do this hypertext reference, which is href. And so let's link to Google. So we do https :// google.com. And then we have our link text in between the opening anchor tag and the closing anchor tag. So this would be a link to Google. Okay, I do that, scroll down. We have this link to Google. If I click on it, it goes to Google, but it leaves my web page. So maybe I want to have it open in a separate tab. So let's duplicate this. And let's have it open in a separate tab. Okay. All right. So if we want it to open in a separate tab, we're going to have target here, and we're going to set it equal to _blank. And you see it gives me that. And now, if I go to the second link, notice they're not block level elements, so they're in the same line. So this one just goes to Google, right? It goes away from the page. The second one here, if I click on it, it opens up in a separate tab. I still have this tab here, so it opens up in a separate tab. Demonstrate again. Okay, so that's target equals _blank, and let's do link to a certain part of the page. So let's make a div here, and we'll give it an ID equal to top. Okay, and there'll be nothing there, but let's do a link to the top of the page. So we'll do a link to the top of the page. Okay, so we're going to do href equals, and we'll do hashtag top. Okay, give the hashtag and then the name of the ID, and we'll say link to top. Okay. All right, now if we go down here, we click on this, it brings us up to the top of the page. So go back down, go back up, go back down, go back up, so on. Okay, so that's links, anchor tags. Okay, next up, images. So we'll do images in HTML. All right, so that's an image tag, and we have a source attribute, which is the first attribute you need, and you also need an alternative text attribute, and this is a self-closing tag. So let's get a picture here. So let's go to pexels.com, and we'll look for a picture of, I don't know, mountains, something like that. And let's take a picture of this picture here. Let's just copy the image address, and this is going to be huge. So we're going to paste in the image address here. That's a big, long. The picture is going to be huge too, but and then we'll say a picture of a mountain. Okay, and then all right, let's take a look at our page. Now it's huge. Now you can add attributes. You typically shouldn't do this. You should do this in your CSS. But if I do width equal to 300, now the picture, and notice it's not a block level element. It's in line with the anchor tags. It's going to be width of 300 pixels, and it sizes the height accordingly. Now, if I try and make the height something different, then I can mess it up. So I could say like height equals 100. And then it stretches out the image. But typically what I should do is I should just pick one of them, and then it's going to size the other one accordingly. So if I do height equals 100, it'll do the width accordingly. Or pick width, whichever one you want. Okay, so that's images. Let's go now to tables. Okay. So we'll say tables in HTML. Okay, so basic table, we start with a table tag, and then inside of that we have a table row, and the top headings might be a table heading tag, so let's say name, and then we'll do one below age. Okay, And then we can have table rows with the information in there. So let's do another table row here, and we'll do TD, which is table data or table cell. So let's say Tim, and we'll do TD, and we'll do 46. Okay, and we'll do another one. Let's do TR, and we'll do TD, we'll do Barb, and we'll do an age of 44. Okay, and then we've got our simple table here. Now you can make it a little bit nicer, even if you don't know CSS, with doing something like border equals 1. You'll notice WebStorm is saying, hey, this is a deprecated attribute. So deprecated, okay? But you can still use it. All right, so then we have cell padding. Let's set that equal to 10. That's also deprecated. And cell spacing equal to 0. So that's a space in between the cells. Now if we look at that, the table looks nicer. You can do that, but you should do it in CSS now. But that's the old way of doing it. Okay, so what else? We can also, inside our table, we can have a T head. So I could, put a T head here, and let's cut that, and then go here, and close out the T head, and let me format this. So what do I do? Control Alt, comma, something like that. Maybe, whatever. Anyways, forgot the shortcut for the format there. But, I could just tab this over, so it looks nice. There we go. Notice how I'm nesting this code, too. It keeps the code organized. So we could do a T head. We could do a T body. Spell it right. And X that out and wrap it around there. And we could tab this over here. And it doesn't change the appearance any, but it does let the browser know a little bit more about the structure. And then we'd have a T foot here, and we could say, want to do a TR here, TR, table row, and we could do table data, do like a call span of 2, something like that, and then say this is random data. I don't know what this data is, but let's see. And there we go. We've got our table there. Now call span, it spans 2 columns. You also have row span 2 rows. But that's basically it for tables. So cool. Last thing I want to talk about in this video is forms. So forms. All right, so let's create a form. And to do that, we use a form tag. And we have an action. I'm going to set that equal to a hashtag, but typically it's like form.php or submit.php or something like that. And then the method, typically you can use get or post. Usually use post. And that's my form. And so that starts the form. And now we want to have an input with a label. And a lot of times you might have a div like containing each of these. So input, we say input type equals text. And we might have a name or an ID for it. So let's call the ID first name. And let's set the name equal first name as well. Now, we want to have a label for this, a label, and we want to have 4. And we give the ID, so the ID is first name, so that works good. So we say enter your first name, something like that. And then we have our form down here. And if I click on that, it focuses in the input, so it's accessible. All right, so we have that label set up like that. And then maybe I have another div here. Sometimes you have break tags that people use. Let's do a label for, let's do last name. And then it's going to say, well, there's no last name. So it's giving me a red, so enter your last name. Okay, and it's giving me a red because I don't have an input. So let's do an input type equals text. ID equals last name, and the name also equals. Now that I gave the ID of last name, the warning goes away. Notice that. Now the name thing is for like handling it with PHP and so on. But now we've got like first name, last name. If I click on this or click on that, it focuses whichever one. You can do other input types like a number. So we'll do a label for, we'll say age. Enter your age, and see WebStorm's going, hey, you don't have an ID, an input with the ID of age. So we're going to do input type equals number. ID equals age. Notice the warning goes away now. Okay, and we'll do name equals age as well if we want to handle it with PHP on the back end. Now, if I go here and I focus in here, you'll see I can go up and do numbers here. Okay, cool. All right, we also might have a submit button. So that's just, we do input type equals submit. And now we have a submit button that will submit the form. Now, we're not doing anything. You see the hashtag on here because I don't have any method that's handling it on the back end, but that's how you submit. Yeah, and you can change that. You can say the value equals submit now, boss, something like that. And then when it changes the text here. So you could do that if you want. You can also use a button. If there's a button in a form, it will automatically submit. But yeah, that's pretty much it. There are a couple other input types that you can look up, input types and forms in HTML. Yeah, let me show you a few more and then we'll call it a day. So we got div, label, let's call it for, let's say password, we'll say enter your password. Okay, and then we'll do input type equals password. Remember, we have to have the ID equal the for and the label. So we're going to go down password, and good practice, keep the name equal to password. Also, okay, so now with the password type, if I start typing it in, you see it hides what I'm typing in there. So that's cool. Password's cool. Email, you can do one with email. So let's do another div here. We'll say a label for, we'll call it email. Now this is the ID, and we'll say enter your email, and then we'll do an input type equals email, ID equals email, and name equals email. And then you have to enter it with the email format, so it's got to have like an @ symbol in there. And so that would be formatted right. So if I just type T. Unkert and hit submit now, boss, it goes, please include an @ in the email address. T. Unkert is missing an @ so it needs that. So it's some kind of validation there for your form. Okay, looks ugly, but that's the basis of HTML. After that, you pretty much want to start styling it. I think that'll conclude this video. If you like this video, please like and subscribe.